friends, welcome to the Empowered Homes podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to grow strong families by connecting church and home. Today, we are in studio with Todd and Lorie Pendergrass. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Bob.
We're continuing our series on marriage. We've had different couples come in. We're talking about different topics. Today with you guys, we're going to talk about honesty and what that looks like in our marriage and how we can gain further freedom together and individually if we're honest on so many different levels. But I'm also going to ask you a few questions at the end, rapid fire. That's been super fun for all our couples. So don't be nervous about those. But Todd and Lorie, just... who are you? Tell me who you are.
Well, So my responsibility, I serve here at Kingsland, and the birthplace of Empowered Homes, and serve as executive pastor of administration. And Lorie, well, she can tell you what she does.
Yes. So I'm a mama first and a wife. And let's see, I do a little bit of accounting work. I do a little bit of decorating. And
she does all that well. Yep.
All the things.
Yeah, all the things. She does all the stuff.
Yeah.
And so she does all that very well.
Well, we're talking about marriage. We're going to talk about y'all's marriage. You're going to share some insight and wisdom. But first, tell me how y'all met. Tell me how it all started.
Well, it's I guess the easiest point to jump off of. We had crossed paths earlier, but so we were friends on Facebook. Which in the ministry, you have 1,000 friends of those that the FBI couldn't find. And so though we were friends, we really probably had maybe one or two conversations ever just in passing. But I was at my parents' house playing an app called Words with Friends. And I was playing my sister, had all these cheats in there, you have cheats, and I'm just really crushing her.
I cheated all the time.
Yeah. And it had pictures over there of people that were friends of yours that maybe are on Words with Friends, and I see her picture. And I went, well, I had gone through a divorce leading up to that time, and which is why I'm at my mother's house on New Year's Eve. And so I was not aware of all that was going on in her life at the time, but she had been divorced for some time. And anyway, I clicked on the picture, and she accepted to play. And then I knew, because, Words with Friends could take days. I knew that I needed to keep her on there, so I was just putting in words like it and at and whatever I could do.
Lorie is not good at those kind of games, and he figured that out real quick.
Yep, and so that led to us having lunch one day, and the rest is history. So.
That's awesome. And how long you been married?
10 years.
10 years. And kids between
6.
you?
We have 6 with a blended family. I have 3, and Lori's 2, and then we have 1 together. But we consider all of them ours.
Yeah. So you guys, blended family, and those listeners, we've got some resources on blended families that so y'all put together on some of that. And you can find all that on Empowered Homes. So if you're interested. But for today's topic, honesty. Mm-hmm. How is honesty and why is honesty a big part of marriage?
Well, when we first, the first lunch that we had that day, quite honestly, as the listeners, if they see a picture of Lorie, they'll go, okay, I can understand why he was putting in everything on the table. And as my oldest daughter said, you don't quite measure up to her. And I'm going, yeah, I know it. But but anyway, we our first lunch, I think the Lord really allowed us to be brutally honest about all the baggage in our own life, and to lay everything on the table. And so I think that it proved to be a great way to start a blended family, that we were trying to share everything we knew about ourselves so there would never be surprises. And so it's always been an important part of what we do, and from the very beginning.
So that first date, you're hearing all of this. Are you sharing? How are you receiving? What did that look like with this honesty?
I was sharing, in my mind, I was like, I don't have anything to lose. This guy could make a great friend to have coffee with or to have lunch with. Oh, well, see how that turned out.
Yeah.
Yep.
When y'all were being honest, Todd, be honest. Were you just wanting to be friends, or were you all in?
No, I'm
Yeah.
all in, Bobby.
Yeah.
I'm all in. I mean, I'm thinking I've got one shot. As soon as she gets over with this lunch, she'll realize that she does not want to do this again.
Yeah.
And first of all, the fact that she showed up was a huge deal, because I'm thinking to myself, there's no way that I would have shown up to have lunch with this clown. And the fact that she showed up, I thought, I'm going to give her everything I got from the very beginning. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And, so
That's awesome. So it started with honesty for you guys, and so now I want you to share with us some things you've learned throughout the years when it comes to honesty.
Well, I thought we'll kind of break it down to an acrostic of the heart, because honesty truly comes from the heart. Truth is a different matter. I mean, truth is really an accurate representation of reality, where honesty is more of a person's inner feelings, and the fact, I think honesty truly cannot lie. And so the truth may sometimes be different than honesty, because sometimes you're telling the truth as you know it, but it may not be everything that you need to know. But for us, it's a matter of the heart. And so we kind of use that, encouraging other couples to do the same. Is the H stands for honesty with God. And if we're not in a right relationship with our Heavenly Father, it's impossible to have a right relationship with our spouse. And so they go hand in hand, becoming honest with each other and honest with ourselves, where we are in that walk. It's looking at Psalm 26 and thinking about David. In that passage, David is calling out to God and saying, look, I've been honest with you in with my life and the way that I'm responding to you, and I need to feel safe here. And that's the same thing that honesty does. When we're honest with each other, it's a safe place, and we have to provide that for our spouse when they're willing to be open and honest, much the way it was in that passage. So that's sort of the H. You want to do it with the E?
Sure. The E is evaluate your marriage.
We kind of go from something that we heard from Gary Thomas. And Gary Thomas uses this kind of evaluation of our marriage. And, Bobby, a lot of people evaluate their marriage based off of how happy they are, or based off of if their spouse is recognizing them anymore, or maybe they're looking at the next door neighbor and going, that couple really gets along great. There's nothing like us, But I think the Scripture gives us a much better evaluating tool when we look at Colossians chapter 3. Colossians chapter 3 says, these things should die in your life, and these things you should give life to. And I think they're a good barometer for us to look at and go, okay, if I'm evaluating my life, we need to really put these things to death. And and there are several things that he mentions in that passage, or they're mentioned in that passage: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, greed, anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language. Yeah. He said those things you put to death. So if you're evaluating your marriage, pretty good to look at those things and go, are these in our life? Do we need to deal with these issues? But then on the flip side of that is to say, well, then what should be put to life? And Lorie can share those with you.
Compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, forgiveness, love, thankfulness, studying of the Bible, and worshipfulness.
So those are the clear things that Colossians chapter 3 gives us a roadmap of how we evaluate our marriage, instead of it being what size the house is or what bills we have paid off or whatever the case may be. He gives us a clear example in Scripture.
Yeah, those are easy things. Not easy. Those are some difficult things, but they're easy things for us to look at and evaluate together. And so many couples would see those things, the things that we are to put to death. And I don't know how many couples I could honestly say, and even my own marriage, like, have I evaluated those things? Mm-hmm. Have I honestly looked through these things? And we've had conversations about these things, and some of that's hard. Mm-hmm. Like, to evaluate and really dig into lust, like with your spouse, like that's it's a big subject. Like, how does that play itself out? But then to look at the other side of the list of compassion, kindness, humility, like it's not that those are easier, but it should be a focus for us to go like, are we known within us, and does the world know our marriage through these things that we're supposed to put on? And it's super difficult. So you got H, you got to be honest with God. You got E, evaluating your marriage through these things. And then what's A?
Yeah, well, let me just say one thing about evaluating your marriage is the fact that this is not you going, what is in your life?
Yeah.
It's what's in my life.
True.
And
Good.
so I'm evaluating myself, not saying, well, you've got a problem with greed. You have a problem. No. Do I have a problem with this?
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's good for us to realize that these are
that's
focused on ourselves. That helps us to evaluate our marriage. What am I doing?
Because honestly, most conflict, I can be like, hey, Jen,
Let me tell you
what I see.
Yeah.
But to be honest with God and honest with ourselves in that evaluation is saying, hey, for my wife, Jen, hey, this is something that I want to share with you based off of these things.
Yep.
Yeah.
A is affirm your spouse. Many of you have busy lives. And so I think about moms, think about dads too. How many of you out there have children that are involved in sports or gymnastics or music lessons, anything that requires a practice? Then life gets busy and you look up and a day is gone, a week is gone, a month is gone, and I have not taken the time to pour into my wife and to encourage her and let her know how important she is to me, and to let her know where she is in the sight of God and what God looks at her, how He looks at her. And these words of affirmation that we're willing to give our spouse are the glue that holds you together, and to give them a sense of peace and confidence in what God has called them to do in the home. And so we have to take time to affirm each other. I would encourage the listeners to take a minute and think of those maybe 5 to 10 things of how you would the qualities that you see in your spouse or your husband, and what are those, and how many of those have you said to them recently? Maybe you said it to them, in our case, 10 years ago, but are you saying it now? Are you affirming and encouraging them now with those words? But also, what are the qualities that you're looking for in your marriage? And so what are you pushing toward to make sure that those things are happening? So affirming your spouse and encouraging them in the work that God's called them to do.
Lorie, how do you affirm Todd?
Well, Todd, he responds well and loves, I think, words of affirmation, kind of a pat on the back or just a reminder that he's appreciated, he's loved, he's seen for the things that he's done. And if I'm lacking in that area, sometimes he'll say, well, what do you think about what I did outside in the lawn? Did you like it? Oh, yeah. It was good. But
kind of
words are good.
I need a little something,
Yeah.
a little
Give me a little
encouragement.
something.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. And, I've heard rarely do things grow that's neglected. Like if you have plants that you never water, it's not going to grow. And so you got to nurture and affirm. And you just said something like words of affirmation is good for him. But for Lorie, how do you affirm her? Like, is it different? Is it like, what's her?
Well, I think the fact that she is, I think she would say the same thing, that she wants to be affirmed when she cooks dinner, or when she's taking care of our 9-year-old, when she's taking care of our kids. She is, I noticed, like I put a note recently on the washing machine, and I just said, I recognize that you're washing all these clothes, and I just want to thank you that it doesn't go unnoticed. That you're always doing that. It's a mundane kind of thing. And I just noticed that what I wrote is now stuck on the wall beside
next to the washing machine.
So it means to me that is important to her, that she needs to read that and remind herself even more often than I'm saying it. And so I think both of us, words of encouragement. She likes notes, and whether they're just left in front of a coffee pot or or a card that you made or whatever. Those kind of things resonate with her.
Yeah. And that affirmation you got to know each other to affirm in right ways. There's stuff that I would say to Jen and she'd be like, you're dumb.
Yeah.
But I know the things that she appreciates, and if I can go after those. So you got to know each other. The other thing with affirmation that I just want to kind of piggyback on to the H of, it goes back to being honest with God. I think also, we're humans. We are always seeking affirmation. And for us to be able to rest and know who we are because of who Jesus is, and we're affirmed already in that. Because I see a lot of couples that I counsel or like their whole worth is on their spouse and not on their Heavenly Father, just like you started it. And so we've got to go back to that as well, of making sure my affirmation, first and foremost, comes from the Lord. And out of that, I find affirmation from my spouse. And I know that's difficult. That's a tough one to go, because I want Jen to like me. I want that. It's part of our DNA. But going back to the H, of being honest with
yeah, I mean, he's very clear about what he thinks about us.
Yeah.
That as a believer, we're a child of God. We're a brother to Jesus. He loves us as much as he loves Jesus. We're a royal priesthood.
Yeah.
We're an heir to the throne. We're all those things that he says about us, and we have to remind ourselves. The old preachers used to say to feed your faith and starve your doubt.
Yeah.
And so you got to continue to feed your faith with what God has really said about you.
Yeah.
And it's the same way our son came home from school. In the school, the kids in the class, they had turned in what they had sentences for every child that they had to write, what they thought of this child. And it was a quality. And so he's got this whole list of what everybody's class, he doesn't know who wrote it, what everybody in the class said about him. And this is a true representation of what people think about you, not what you heard on the playground when a kid, when you got run over with a football. But same way in life, this is a true representation. We look at the scripture, what God thinks about us is this is reality, not what the enemy tells you or what somebody else tells you today that you didn't do. This is what Jesus thinks of you.
Yeah. And you can remind your spouse of those things. When you see doubt or see struggles, or, hey, Jen, this is for her. Hey, you're a daughter of the King, right? Like, just affirming her, but also affirming who God says that she is, too. And so affirmation's a big deal. So that's the A. What's the R?
The R is to respond with grace. If we're going to truly be honest with each other, especially if you've been married a while, you have to be willing to respond in grace when they actually tell you something that you didn't know. And what if a spouse comes up and goes, I have something I want to share with you, and they share with you something that they've held inside for 10 years, and it hurts that they haven't told you, and you can say, this is tough for me, but I've got to respond in grace, because now they feel this is a safe place. I can be honest with you. And so if I'm going to be honest, you got to respond in grace. That goes across much more simpler things in life. If your wife irritates you, your husband, you're tired of these little idiosyncrasies that he has, or whatever the case may be, we all need grace, and for somebody to give us a break. And so I think you hope that people, when they consider being honest in their relationships, and they may say, well, I am honest. Well, is there anything you're hiding from a spouse? Anything you're hiding from your husband? Anything you're hiding from your wife? Honesty is exposing what those things are and bringing them into the light. We have to respond in grace when they do that. Because then if we don't, I can't believe you hadn't told me that. I can't believe this. Well, they know the next time this is not a safe place.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a safe place to be able to share these things. And so
that's good.
Responding with grace.
Grace. Does Todd need a lot of grace?
He needs a lot. I can answer that. This woman
I think
puts
we
up
all
with some
do.
stuff.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah, that's so good. Responding with grace. T, the last letter.
Take time for the journey. So, take time to spend together. Date your spouse on a regular basis. We love that. We wish we had more of that.
Yeah, and dating your spouse doesn't mean it has to be something extravagant or this fine dinner. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It may just be the kids aren't there and you're able to sit at the house
Yeah.
and have a cup of coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
But take time in this journey to continue to pour into your relationship. And I'm telling you, Lorie and I have those times when things feel like there's a wall there all of a sudden. We've literally went out to dinner before with question cards and asked questions that we've known the answer to. You know, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, where would you go? And you laugh for the first few questions, and then all of a sudden the wall's gone because you've taken time to stop.
Yeah.
You know, and to talk with each other even on those simplest things.
Yeah.
So some of us have to go back in order to be honest. We have to rewind. Say, when did this stop? When did I quit being honest with you? When did I quit being open with you and we're just surviving another day? Sometimes we have to go back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
And my dad used to say, remembering, what was it he used to say? What happened to what happened? And I always go, what do you mean by that? Well, at some point in time, something happened where you fell in love with someone. What happened to that time? You know?
Yeah.
Have you let it fade away because you've gotten into the many activities of the world and you're forgetting to take the time to spend with each other?
And I love how focused and action forward you have to take the time, because if you don't, no one's going to give you any extra time. Your schedules are busy, things are crazy. You got to take it, and that means you got to be intentional. You got to plan it. You got to schedule.
Well, you know, Bobby, we've all, at some point in time, you were pursuing Jen, and I was pursuing Lorie. We have to continue to pursue our spouse.
Yeah.
Continue to go after them.
Yeah.
And so that they feel the worth, you know, of who they are in your life. And it's easy for that to get off the front page. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Take time for the journey.
That's so good. So, recap. H, got to be honest with God, honest with your spouse. E, evaluate your marriage. A, affirm your spouse. R, respond with grace. And T, take time for the journey.
That's it.
That's good. That's so good. And we'll have all this written out on the description of the podcast, and it'll be its own resource too. But when it comes to honesty, any last words for the listener? If you could get in front of, you know, someone listening in their car right now, and you'd be like, "Hey, when it comes to honesty, remember blank. Remember this."
I think today I would say, just start today. You know, take the time to maybe bend a knee in front of your spouse and go, it's going to be. I'm going to be honest with you. This is the way life is going to be from now on, and realize the freedom that comes from having that honesty in your life. That you're no longer hiding anything.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah, start today. I think from anybody listening, if you're like, man, you just don't know what it's okay. Start today.
Just
Be
start
honest.
today.
Because when you're honest, you bring things to light. And when things are in the light, freedom comes.
Yes,
and
it does.
The weight's off your shoulders, the burdens and the shame and the guilt goes away, and you get to walk in that. So, well, that's awesome. Thank you guys for this challenge of our hearts. It just that's really good. It's powerful stuff.
Thank you, Bobby.
I got some questions before we go.
All right, let's do it.
So all of our couples have been going through these.
These are all for Lorie, right?
They're fun. You both have to answer. The key is don't think too much. Just respond and kind of go through fast. So this one's quick, or not quick, but this one's for you, Lorie. This one's kind of easy. I'm super interested in this one for you. Number one. What's something that your spouse wears that you love?
Probably a suit and tie.
A suit and tie. Okay.
My favorite.
You do look good in a suit and tie.
I'm going to have to start wearing it more often.
Yep. Todd, what about you for Lorie?
What's something she wears?
Something she wears.
Blue jeans.
Blue jeans.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Very PG. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's best I can do.
Yep. All right. Number two. Todd, this for you. What is your biggest fail in the kitchen? We'll start with you. Something you've done in the kitchen that just failed at.
Lori doesn't let me in the kitchen.
Is there a reason why?
Yes. She can't stand, she's always fearful of the mess. And so,
Okay.
yeah, anything that's cooked in the kitchen.
Now, when he does cook, it's always good. He does a great job, but I'm always of the mindset, I got to clean that mess up, or
Even if you've cleaned it up,
yeah, I
Lori still
have
has to clean it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, and Lori, bless her heart, she doesn't clean the kitchen. If you cook in the kitchen, she'll clean the entire house. It doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't stop.
You could probably
So I
eat
can't-
off of our floors.
I don't know. She may could tell you a fail, but I can't.
I can't think of anything.
Lori, do you have a fail in the kitchen?
Oh, totally.
Oh,
What's-
So-
I
what's
can
the
name
biggest
that
one?
We can both. We'll name the same one.
Well,
Oh.
I don't know that it's like a particular fail other than I don't enjoy cooking.
No, she's a fabulous cook, but there's one instance that she needs to tell you about.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to do with the pot pie.
Oh, yeah, that was bad.
Okay.
So I'm notorious if I have my mindset on what I'm going to cook and I'm out of an ingredient, we're just going to sub. Like there's got
And
to be
nobody will
something.
not tell anybody.
I'm not going to tell anybody.
Nobody
right?
will know.
So I make homemade chicken pot pies.
And they're phenomenal. They
Okay.
really are. They're
And
phenomenal.
this was probably like 9 years ago. So we had only been married about a year. All the kids had
Yeah.
only been together, under the same roof for about a year. And so I have 2 homemade chicken pot pies sitting there. Everybody comes home from work and
They
from
look
school.
fabulous, They
They
look like
sit
they always
down to
did.
eat. I cut, serve. Well,
And she says
Here's-
these are Mexican
I said,
homemade pot pie, and I'm going Mexican. How could these possibly be good? And so
So-
yeah.
I did not have veggie, which is one of
Okay.
my main ingredients in a chicken
Yeah.
pot pie. So I substituted
Yeah,
with
black
black
beans.
beans and corn.
Yes.
And just threw some chicken in there and mixed it up and thought it was going to be fabulous. Well, it was a total fail. So Madison, one of our boys, he
He's got
looks
his back
over-
to the kitchen, right? And
He's
I'm
like-
facing the kitchen at the table, and he looks at me as he's cutting into it, and he looks at me and he's moving his lips, going, "What is this?" And I'm going, "I don't know. Just eat it."
Just eat it.
We were both just as surprised.
I think we threw it in the trash, and we had some Marie Callender's pot
Okay.
pies in the freezer. We microwaved those, and that was dinner that night.
Perfect.
It was a total fail. Yes.
was really bad.
As you can see, I tried
Yeah.
to forget that
Yeah.
memory.
That's
Yeah.
pretty incredible. And then, last but not least, this is a good question. Lori, we'll start with you. If you both found a genie in a bottle and you got 3 wishes, the first 2 can be whatever you want, but the third only has to be for your spouse. What would your third wish be for Todd?
Oh, wow. No doubt. I would wish that for the remainder of his years on earth, that he would sleep through the night.
There you go.
He does not sleep through the night. He doesn't sleep much.
Yep.
He works a lot.
Yeah. I don't sleep much either.
Maybe y'all should
Yeah.
talk through
I've
the
slept through the night one time since we've been married. That's the honest truth.
once.
Really?
One time. Yeah. It's the fact that you can remember that day is crazy.
That is pretty crazy. I
It's
know.
very
I know. I've gotten emails way late.
Oh, yes.
And there's times where I've responded because I'm up.
Way
you're up
late,
too.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
Todd, what would be your wish?
My wish for Lori,
Yeah.
it would probably be that she would understand the magnitude of the impact she has on all of us. That she would have a clear understanding of how she impacts my life and our children's lives, and that would be clear in her mind.
Y'all are so sweet. I was telling Jen, I
Dad
was
in
like,
a G-Wagon.
Yeah,
She wants a
the G-
G-Wagon.
yeah,
Is that what I
let's-
should have
yeah,
said?
G-Wagon. I was like-
she wants a G-Wagon, but she doesn't want it to be her car. She wants to be the
I don't
side
want it to
car.
be my
Oh, yeah.
daily driver.
Yeah.
I just
You
want
can't have
it
that
for
as-
fun.
Yeah, you can't be
yeah.
going around a G-Wagon and be on staff somewhere.
yeah,
No.
you can't
Yeah.
do that.
No.
Yeah.
And I would have a what?
Oh, Todd, he would have, I don't know, probably a Lexus L
C.
something. C.
LC,
Yes.
yeah.
Some
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
crazy,
So
expensive.
if you got any of those in your back
look,
pocket, we'll take
That's
those.
the stuff that,
Yeah.
like, I've been asking couples. I'm like, for Jen, I was like, I want land. Like, why? She wanted me to not like have back pain anymore. And I was
I
like,
can live a back pain. Give me 100 acres.
yeah, give me some acres. Anyways,
Do you want cows
Yeah.
and horses and chickens too?
no, I just want the land to just get away and do whatever I want to
Yeah.
do on it. And anyways,
That's fun.
well, thank y'all. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank you.
just your wisdom. And for those listening, if you want more information on marriage, we got a ton of great resources on Empowered Homes, but specifically breaking down the heart. This is going to be resources on Empowered Homes as well. It'll be all linked to the description of this show. Thank y'all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bobby. We
Thanks.
enjoyed it.